Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. There is so much going on that I had to make sure I brought my proper notes with some of the announcements of what's happened, especially over the last week. You would have realized that we officially launched on Friday the National Youth Policy and Action Plan, Friday, May 15th, Derek Walcott Square. Um, Society, young people, everybody got an opportunity to pass through the city center and get an idea of the pillars that we are going to follow as we seek to engage young people meaningfully in the overall development of St. Lucia. The event was very well received. We had schools coming in throughout the day. The event started after 10 o'clock in the morning, and we had a number of individuals from corporate society, from social society coming in to understand the national youth policy and how it's going to shape the future of St. Lucia. That event was also entertaining. We had some young people come through, the likes of Ezra, the likes of Ludi really came in. And of course, it was a national event that was very well put together. The Prime Minister came through and other cabinet colleagues and lent their voice to the establishment of that National Youth Policy and Action Plan. In addition to that, we had the official launch of Black Hat Football in the Ministry of Sports. Black Hat Football on Saturday, May 16th. Philip Maslake Grounds was the venue used for the opening of Black Hat. This is a venue that we continue to try our best to give attention. We have some work to do on the surface and also the roof with the main pavilion, but we saw some exciting football. The Black Hat competition this year has been held at the under 20 level. The organizer, David Shakes Christopher, along with the SLFE, made that decision once they explained that this was the direction they were going. The Ministry of Youth Development and Sports lent its support, and we saw some very good games on the weekend. One game featured a constituency of Grosley and Labrie, Rosa and Masha, and so we'll see some football continue on Wednesday in Viewfort and then move to Soufrière and then up north. We also had semi-pro cricket on the weekend. A de facto semi-final was held at the Grosley playing field on Sunday, and we saw the final being decided. So we'll have Chozel Craft Masters coming up against City Blasters. So Central Castries, they will play Chozel. And with this competition, we've seen an increased interest. As you can see, most of the batting tallies exceeded 200 runs, as we are seeing in the IPL. And so it means that a lot of adjustments has been made to batsmen understanding how to score runs quickly. I think so far my biggest takeaway from SPL 2026 is the number of young people who actually follow the SPL, come to the games, and say to me, Minister, I'm so ready to become a semi-professional cricketer. It means that it started earlier. They've already started shaping their minds that this is a direction that is feasible for them. And so we see the development programs, we see the grassroots programs, we see the high performance center, and the inclusion of foreign cricketers. Each team allowed to bring in 2 foreign cricketers from the region has really sparked even further interest. We had Alec Athanas yesterday scoring 100, and of course an international player in the dressing room for Chozel Craft Masters. Obviously you're seeing a professional at work. I think that can only redound to the benefit of these young individuals seeing what it takes to become professional. And that's what we want with the semi-professional cricket league. We also had CPEA exams last week on May 13th and 14th across the island. I was able to visit a number of the centers that were hosting the students. We saw a number of students seem calmer than, even the teachers and parents. I, as a parent, I can tell you the night before I barely slept, only to see the twins enter with a level of confidence as the other classmates were very relaxed. And so that's what we want to see from our students. So we await the results of CPA and CXC, CSEC exams also ongoing. I was able to visit some of the institutions, as the Sahara Simmons Secondary, Castries Comprehensive Secondary, SDA Academy, also a school that I will be giving attention to along with the MP for Castries North. And for all intents and purposes, things were happening smoothly. Every single examination is being guided by the CXC. It's a regional examination, and of course you have some issues that normally come up with exams, but they were taken care of for all intents and purposes, and so everything went smoothly. I'm not sure if I announced previously that this is Reading Month, and so we are certainly making the clarion call for more of society, those influencers, to get involved in Reading Month. Visit the schools. Sometimes it's just 5-10 minutes to read a story, share your experience with reading and how it's helped you develop. And we had that launch at the Dame Paulette Louise Primary School on May 6th. Very well put together. I think we've also sent the clarion call for Reading Month not to just be considered for the children. Our adults need to read. I seriously believe there is a problem with reading comprehension, understanding, and not just waiting for individuals in the social sphere, influencers, to tell you what to think, but to think for yourself. Read the entire release, the entire statement of a video before prejudging. So I made the call for adults to really use this month to read. Read something, whether you're a teacher, a principal, read something that can help you with reskilling and adjusting to this new generation. And so I want to take this opportunity to encourage everybody, parents, teachers, and children, to get more involved in reading. We also will be having the press launch for semi-pro football. That is scheduled to happen on the 27th of May. We are into our third version of the tournament. We are planning to ensure that we have some more programs for the footballers in financial management, in conflict resolution, in ensuring that you can keep your temperament. So this is something that I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to the official opening of the Cuthbert Modest Strength Training Center at the Mendo Phillip Park. Anybody who knows Twatini knows that he was always and is always big on strength training. You would see some videos of him along with Julian Alfred in that gym, albeit at that time very, very ill-equipped for athletes. But we've done a lot of work in ensuring that we have new, fresh equipment, brand new mirrors, and of course all the treadmills and the different things we need to strengthen our athletes. So very soon we will be opening that center in honor of Cuthbert Modest, who's continued to provide his service to young people in sport and overall development. I think that's all I have for you right now. Any questions?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Minister.
Good morning.
A couple of questions from me. You spoke on the CPA, which concluded last week, 13th and the 14th of May. Mm-hmm. The discussion continues as to the relevance of the CPA, the pressures being placed on students just for this one exam as opposed to continuous assessment moving forward. What is the ministry's current position on the CPA? Is it under review? Are we revisiting the format? What is the position as it stands right now?
Well, it's a regional exam, so we will be always having discussions. We will have briefings after having an examination of that nature. We saw the move from having CPA, or what we called common entrance, one day as the determinant of an individual's position or placement at a secondary school. Of course, there was thorough discussion on whether one day should justify what secondary school a child attends, and that was definitely adjusted to ensure that you have the component, which is 40% similar to SBA completion towards your grade, which one may describe as some level of continuous assessment, and of course the other 60% being on the day, the multiple choice questions in the different academic fields. I can tell you that I am not one who gravitates towards just examination. I believe we need to, from that age, be dealing with children as developing professionals, and education should always be in life forming in terms of transitioning children through the phases in terms of their adopting life skills that can be sustained through their employment, that could be sustained in terms of they being individuals in our society that is progressive and providing that level of economic activity for the wider nation. So we'll definitely continue to review what it is right now. We'll obviously see how we can ensure we have that evolution in education that really deals with the child becoming more productive citizens and not necessarily just strictly examinations to determine somebody's ability to function in the work world. That's my position.
On the subject of CXC, I did pick up on social media, there were some comments, some concerns by a couple of students regarding the math paper 2, stating that the questions did not reflect what was on the syllabus, to the point that some are even alleging that the questions may have been AI generated. Have you received any such reports? And
you see, the beauty of these examinations being standardized across the region is that you can make calls at the different countries, to the different countries, and find out what their thoughts are. I can tell you that just generally, preliminarily, there is that feeling that there was just something unique. Let's just put it that way. Something very unique about that paper too. I've also spoken to students that seem to believe that they were somehow a little aggrieved. I can tell you the examination council, they have done well over the years in making adjustments and listening to the reports coming out from the teachers, the principals, the invigilators, and of course the ministry in making final decisions as to whether certain questions should have been scrapped. Certain questions were unfair, and therefore making adjustments to the overall grade or the percentage, the mark that the child obtains. So that will be under review. That discussion, I was at Black Hat Football in Viewfort, that discussion came up. I was at semi-professional cricket in Rosalie, it came up. And so I would envisage and imagine that enough parents would make some level of an appeal to the examination council, the regional examination council, and the ministry for us to have some level of a review. It's been done in the past. I don't think this year will be any exception.
And final question for me on the sports academy. I've been made to understand, and you could clarify, that the sports academy will eventually transition into a high performance center, and the proposal is that it will be renamed. What is the position on that?
That's a manifesto statement, and of course a statement of intent. The manifesto is really a statement of intent that I believe everybody should read and be guided by. The Prime Minister and of course his team putting this together indicated that we needed a more robust approach to dealing with the high performance individuals in our society in terms of sport, and I have been steadfast in my belief that that facility can provide that level of accommodation to our national athletes in terms of injury management, in terms of mental training, in terms of still having the facilities for these high performing athletes to provide good training, good level of strength training and overall technique development. And we believe that sports medicine on all levels will be part of that Laverne Spencer Center for Excellence. So I believe at the end of the day, we are doing this responsibly. We've put together a transitioning team that will take the time and look at all what we can do preliminarily, what we can institute as time goes by in a phased approach to providing that level of quality injury management, injury recovery, that quality level of professional attention to our athletes that will be representing us. And so I think we'll look back at that moment when we finally open that center and realize that we did justice to St. Lucian athletes by giving them that level of attention.
Good morning, Mr. Minister.
Good morning. How are you?
No doubt that you would have heard about the incident at one of the schools across the island. I'll refrain from going into the specifics. As Minister, how concerned are you about the safety and protection of teachers, particularly in emotionally charged situations?
First and foremost, I will tell you, I'm also a parent. My concern as a minister is for the biggest stakeholder in our education system, first and foremost, the safety, security of the child, the student, the pupil, whichever way you want to describe them. I stand firm in my belief that a school has to be a safe space for our children. I don't even think I'm speaking as a minister right now, I'm speaking as a parent. You want to know that when you turn your back, when you've dropped that child, that child's level of health physically, mentally, is given all consideration by all and sundry, and those that are given the responsibility to ensure that that child is being taken care of properly. And then the next stakeholder, the teachers. I personally hold teachers to the highest level or highest standard of accountability. You are an adult. I personally would want for you to realize that you are an adult and you have a certain level of responsibility in terms of being mentally ready to deal with children and in discipline, and that you make sure that you're responsible in every second, every split second of the day. And that's my position. I just believe that it's about the child being safe, and as a teacher, ensuring that that child is safe. For me, I am someone who also believes in due process. You will never find me just coming here and saying A, B, C, D should happen. I believe that there is a guidance by the legal documents of the ministry for dealing with conflict in schools and dealing with that sort of those issues. And I believe that personally we need to ensure that this is instituted, it has been commenced, it has been ongoing, and I await the Public Service Commission decision at the end as to how we deal with that issue. Of course, I will always be concerned about young children, young people, and how they are treated. And for me, I will not interfere with the process, but you can imagine how closely I will be monitoring what happens here.
Okay, thank you. Interestingly enough, though, subsequent to the release of the news report, one would have argued that there is not enough emphasis being placed on teachers and, you know, the whole idea of their mental health. Do you suppose that there is truth to this statement? And if you're not satisfied, what does the ministry intend to do to, you know, safeguard the mental health of teachers?
Very good question, I must say, because at the end of the day, we are still dealing with human beings. As hasty as I am to gravitate towards the notion that we need to ensure that we protect our children, I believe even as human beings, that is why I'm always calling for due process. As human beings, no matter what age you are, you do err. You do have times and moments, every single one of us, and I don't think we should be hypocritical. Every single one of us would make a mistake and just be like, how? Every one of us here, how did I do that? What happened that caused me to do that? And so that's going to be part of what happens as well. I think at the end of the day, we are still dealing with a human being. We are still dealing with imperfect human beings. And that has to be part of the evaluation of what happened here and how moving forward we can provide that level of training and intervention to ensure that it doesn't happen again. In addition to that, we've had thorough discussion on counselors. The ministry and the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, we endorse 10 new counselors for our school system, primarily our students. But the funny thing is, even the counselors that are currently in existence in the meeting said we need to identify one counselor, preferably a regionally respected counselor for teachers and for them as counselors. I've always said your mental health is your responsibility. I'm one who spends some time doing yoga, meditation, and we all here need that cathartic intervention in terms of what we do on a daily basis. And that is what I as minister want to ensure is done for all stakeholders in our education system. Can you imagine the amount of counseling our principals need, the teachers need, I would say the janitors, the cleaners, because everybody is susceptible to making those sort of errors, and so I don't want to make it seem as if there's that insensitivity to that.
Okay, nice. Teachers have complained that classroom environments can sometimes become difficult to manage. Does the ministry believe that teachers are being equipped with the necessary training and skill set to deal with these behavioral patterns?
I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied. I believe that the ministry definitely provides a certain level of intervention and resources to teachers to manage their classrooms. But I do believe that more can be done for the teachers. I think the teachers, 90% of them, 99% of them, they are well-intentioned. As a former teacher myself at a primary and infant school, I believe that we often we don't feel like we are appreciated enough, and more can be done. But I continue to encourage teachers to reskill. What would have worked 20 years ago, if that is the level of competence you're bringing right now, it is not enough. You need to reskill. You need to, from time to time, hone in on the skills that you have and modernize those skills. So we have been looking at different areas, different programs that we can implement for that. The ministry has been doing that over the years. I want to make sure that people understand that the ministry, we have had programs for our teachers, and we are only hoping that we could do more in the future to ensure that more and more classroom management is something that is always in the forefront of what they do.
Okay, nice. There are a number of teachers who are simultaneously pursuing tertiary education while actively teaching. Is the ministry considering stipends, tuition, or other incentives to support educators who wish to pursue their studies?
That's, I think at the end of the day, we as human beings, not just teachers, we should never really be satisfied with our level of intellect, with the skills we've garnered over the years, the experience we have. And so we should always be looking for programs. I say that to the people at the youth ministry, our youth workers that insist they want to be promoted and that sort of thing. So I always say to them, but you have the same level of qualification you came in with 5 years ago. What have you done that gives you that edge to be promoted? And so with teachers, it's no different. But teachers do feel like the ministry and the minister and the upper branch at education can do more. But we do encourage them to apply for as much as they can in terms of whatever programs that are online, whatever programs that are available, like Sir Arthur Lewis. But it would be very, very irresponsible for me to say as minister that we can fund it right now. We do have, the ministry is huge in terms of the financial needs that the educators and all and sundry in education needs right now. But it would be irresponsible for me to say right now that we can fund all or most of the programs that they may need for them to further themselves. But we certainly hope that they are looking around. We do have a HRD department, and once we can provide that level of, training for some and the finances permit, then we will. But there are a lot of programs out there that are online that they can do.
For free?
Some of them are for free.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. Are you satisfied that
You ever hear me satisfied, boss? The Prime Minister is wondering. I grossly do it so much all the time, and most of my focus is on what I have not done. So I can already tell you, no, I'm not satisfied. But go ahead. Sorry. I apologize.
on a matter of security, school security?
Oh, my God.
We have, over the last few years in particular, heard of incidents of individuals invading school premises or making their way onto school premises and creating, for want of a better word, havoc. Are you satisfied?
I can tell you, to answer your question, that I'm very proud to be a part of a government that every year you've seen an increased allocation for dealing with school security. I don't think that any government can have a one-off sort of financial contribution right now in just dealing with all of our security concerns. But to answer your question, no, I am not satisfied with that level. We've had, I think, in terms of meetings, that will be one of the meetings in the last 6 months as minister that I've had a lot of in terms of how it is that we can provide that level of security given the financial constraints that we have. I can tell you it's not a one-size-fits-all, simply because, again, we have fiscal challenges. But those schools that we realize in more need of certain interventions in terms of CCTV, in terms of armed guards, we have been over the years given that level of attention, and will continue to incrementally increase that level of security at schools until we get to a point where we know that all schools are secure enough away from individuals that may be malicious and nefarious in our society.
Still on security, more internationally though, there are cries and calls for our students outside, bearing in mind what is happening in the world at the moment. and security issues, issues with traveling and stuff like that. Maybe you could speak to that and more specifically with regards to Cuba.
I think as a Minister of Education, we've been very thorough in dealing with our students that are currently at Cuba. We've had plans that have been drawn up for those students that are spread across the island in terms of where would be the assembling point if in fact we do need to move them, or what would be the mode of transportation we would use if we need to move them, and how do we provide that level of accommodation for them when if they need to be moved to another school or enrolled elsewhere to complete their program. We've had some very good meetings with External Affairs and of course the Ambassador Isaac, who is currently in Cuba, and of course with the Students Association in Cuba, to ensure that we continue to monitor how things are flowing. We live in a very volatile time right now. I remember waking up one morning in February, and Israel was and the US were bombing and getting rid of a leader in Iran. So it just tells you that you always need to be overly prepared, and that is what we have done at the ministry. We've had some really high-level meetings with UE, with other institutions, and of course with the students and at the institutes in Cuba, to ensure that come what may, we have some level of support for our children if they need to move. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.